Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum. My name is Citizen Strife, and this week, I'm diving back into Final Fantasy VII. It is a landmark game for many, many reasons, and Lee and I have already talked about it since we did it on the main channel, but this is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be a digression into specifics. Final Fantasy didn't start out mostly with side quests and minigames. I'd say around 5, maybe even 4 to a smaller extent. You can grab some items and get them forged into better items and stuff, but there weren't really like what I would consider side questing. It really took hold in 5 and then went on further, and games have gone since then. But outside of, say, maybe Final Fantasy X, where like the end game is almost ridiculous in how much stuff it has packed into it, Final Fantasy VII is one that also does, for better and for worse. And I'm talking the big ones like Chocobo Racing and Breeding. I'm talking the small ones like giving out CPR to a child because Cloud's the only one who can do it for some reason. Just little things, big and small, in order, and see where things go. This is going to be kind of off the cuff and just thoughts on, were they effective? Are they things that they should bring back in the remake or integrate if they haven't already? You know, just little things. And I'll try to get into remake and integrate on its own time, but if it feels like necessary or is a necessary digression, I will. And obviously the game starts in Midgar, and most of Midgar tends to be on a smaller scale. You'll get small stuff like, hey, jump on a pole and get to the Shinra building, or do other small bullshit. The main bit, it concerns Wall Market, and I've said Wall Market is my favorite part of the game, and it holds true in remake as well. And they do a really good job of like recreating like Honeybee Inn and essentially most of the side quests, because they added in the Coliseum bit as its own cool thing in remake, but essentially all of the stuff that you did in Wall Market to get Cloud in a dress is recreated almost too well in the neon-soaked depravity, which is Wall Market. But in the original, you do have this like weird, like, you're forcing Cloud into a situation to save Tifa, and it's kind of funny that Aerith is the one who does it. I've said before, the reason I like Aerith a lot is that she doesn't take shit from anybody, and this is one of those reasons. Having him go through a gym with a bunch of people to do a squat minigame, you know, I've gotten really good at that one, where it's just if you stick with a rhythm, you're never really gonna screw up. In the remake, it's a lot harder. They make the timing a lot more intricate, and it's easier to fuck up. And I don't think I recall beating the main guy, you know, because those were difficult inputs. It's a rhythmic input still, but it's kind of hard. But the idea is that every little thing that you do gives you points to get the better dress and the better outfit. Going to Honeybee Inn and finding that President Shinra is in there and he's just cosplaying and just having a ball with these random dudes who were executives. It's just weird, stupid shit. And you know, before Final Fantasy 16 became a mature rated game, you'd never see stuff like you'd seen in Final Fantasy 7. You know, just a lot dingier, like breaking into a toilet to see somebody puking and whatever, and giving them a digestive aid, and just little stupid shit to create a dress just so you can get into Wall Market and do the thing. And of course, it's all lovingly recreated in remake, which is good. I was never good enough, despite all my rhythm game experience. For whatever reason, I was never able to get the rhythm game stuff down, but I was able to see the different dresses that Cloud was able to get. I've done the Aerith and Tifa ones, though, And honestly, as much as I like the purple dress, there's something about the ninja outfit and the other dresses that she gets. Aerith, obviously, the red dress is the one you want, and the benefit is that she gets them based on your, doing the stupid shit like getting the cats and whatever. So they're dumb, but they're useful. I think what I find is most annoying about Remake is that time doesn't move in those chapters, but there's a subtle thing, and I don't know if anybody ever picked up on it. I found it strange. Was, say you do a side quest for people in Remake, the word gets around super quick that you've helped people out and that your opinion gets changed, all the while no time has passed in the real world. Again, it's the weird dichotomy. You're on Meteor's clock, and yet here you are going after a gold chocobo, right? You're wasting your time getting a gold chocobo in 7 days. Don't ask me how, don't ask me why, but that's the plan. But Wall Market is fun. Don Corneo is fun. It's so fucking great. And then you go into the Shinra building. The cool thing of going up the stairs. Tifa's bad language aside, you have, going up the stairs and I've actually been inspired to do stair climbing because of that scene, and some other stuff that I've watched. Stair climbing hurts too. It's impressive. Well, it doesn't hurt, but it's good for you. Builds character. But you could do that. You could bust through the building and shoot stuff up and do things. Turtle's Paradise, collecting all those things is kind of neat. The biggest thing about the Shinra building, though, is the elevator. It's kind of cool where you can do all the little cool things. Like, one of them is just find a dude, do a thing. One of them is find the items to do the Midgar parts. That's kind of annoying, but it's cool in a way. The thing I think they could have done more with was the exercise bikes and stuff. Just because I'm a fitness guy, I would have liked to just have them waste their time, like 5 or 10 minutes just being on a fucking treadmill to like buff their HP or buff their MP or something. That would have been a neat little use of the exercise area, which they didn't do. So cool stuff like that. Finding all the books for Mayor Domino. I've got more paper cuts than skin. Shit like that. So we get to our first big one, which is G-Bike. And I'm going to level with you guys. I'm sort of good, and I'm also sort of bad at it. For whatever reason, the game insists on those red guys being dicks so that I think it's the orange guys being dicks so the red guys can go after you. But the idea is that if you take damage, the motorball fight gets harder and harder. But there are times where I just cannot seem to do it. I go back to Gold Saucer, and it's just, no, they won't go down. My method, and everybody's different, is to kind of wait it out and kind of go backwards. So if you go to one direction, say if a guy's on the right-hand side, I kind of screen to the left as I swing, and then I come down as I'm swinging, as I'm moving to the right. And I found that that's my preferred method of doing damage. I'm not the best at like ramming people with Cloud to get through them. That's a bit brute force, and sometimes it's a bit too much. I'm not the best at doing G-Bike, and I think in Gold Saucer, the method of using Cloud to ram people is probably more preferable because you don't have to worry about the HP loss. So take that for what it is. I've at most gotten like 12,000, 13,000, maybe 17, but it's not really advisable. It's more fun than anything else because it's a adrenaline pumping thing, but it doesn't really get you a whole lot in the grand scheme of things because you could be doing stuff like the battle arena or the chocobo thing. So doing G-Bike and getting like 1 or 2 GPs kind of moving on to Fort Condor. I have a lot of thoughts on this, even though I begrudgingly did it in my playthrough, mostly because it was the show don't tell method. I tend to tell don't show, and we avoided doing Fort Condor until we had to, mostly because some weird thing about trying to do Fort Condor early is I've invested like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars once, and I've still not gotten them to proc the freaking minigame, so I just gave up. I've had that happen. The general idea with Fort Condor is that you can always keep coming back. We read up on the list. It could be HP items, it could be better equipment, stuff for Yuffie, stuff for Red, special cool things, but you'd have to kind of come back every time you fight a dude. It's geared to like 10 or 15 fights, and there are different waves of different dudes doing different things. So light infantry, higher level infantry, the barbarian dudes that do damage, the commanders who basically tank everything, but you kill them and you're done. Or you can just do what I did and ignore it and just let them walk. Like, if you want to, you can just let them walk to the frickin' house and you beat them and it's done. Like, path of least resistance, hooray. So my method was only do the big fight, and that's the one we showed, was the big fight with tons of dudes. I looked up stuff about Fort Condor in Intergrade, and that's a lot more engaged and a lot more unique. It looks like a game board, like a tabletop game board with game pieces and stuff. And you actually get to interact with characters in the game because they have game boards. It's a lot like Sphere Break in Final Fantasy X-2, where you're actually facing off against party members on occasion. And like, you could face Jesse, you could face Roche, you could face Chadley, you can face whomever. They actually have the game boards that Yuffie has to face off against. And while, again, I'm not the best at Fort Condor because it's a kind of a real-time strategy kind of thing, I'm not like tower defense, I'm not really into RTS or turn-based strategy and defensive stuff and win conditions and all that. So take that for what it's worth, and it's very bare bones. This is not meant, none of the things in this game are meant to be the be-all end-all. I'd say the most intricacy they've had was in the Chocobo racing, and even then it's really basic, but I give them credit for trying, at least, I suppose, as wonky as some of it is. And then while you're doing Fort Condor, you get Yuffie. I've sometimes spent 10 minutes, 15 minutes trying to find her, and the game is tricking you the entire time. You have to keep talking to her. You can't make a mistake talking to her. She'll steal your stuff. It's really annoying, which leads into the affection mechanic, since at that point you will have every character will balance into that. You get Yuffie, things start to get interesting with the affection mechanic, because in most games now, especially the Persona style and anything else, they will up front tell you, hey, this is a segment you can learn about a character, go do it. And again, was Persona the first? No, but it was the one that really cornered the market on, like, this is the thing that they do. Like, half the game is social links. Final Fantasy did it in a subtle way in 7 and 10 specifically, was if you show affection for a character in battle, or you say the right things in dialogue, little small things will happen. In 10, you'll spend more time with a character on a cutscene to Makalania Temple, or during Tidus's thing, he will, have the ball thrown to him, and if you have a girl specifically, that girl will show up. Little silly, subtle stuff like that. In Final Fantasy VII, that coordinates to the date, and Aerith has priority, Tifa is second, Yuffie is down at third, and Barrett is all the way down at fourth. And stuff you say and do in Midgar specifically, but in other places, can affect how and what character you get in the Gold Saucer date. Me personally, I like Yuffie's date more. I might have said that. I think I said this in the Kingdom Hearts playthrough. Yuffie is just great. and rambunctious and whatever little affection she can show to Cloud, which is again against type because Aerith and Tifa are there, is kind of nice. The problem is you have to go through a lot of hoops to either get Yuffie or Barrett. Barrett is just funny because of the hilarity of it, because what the fuck are you talking to me? You know, that sort of shit. But they grow a bromance, I guess, in a way. But to get Barrett, you have to ensure that all the other three are failing. So you have to be mean the entire game. And the way the discussion mechanic works is I don't think Cloud is meant to be a complete dickhead to people. I mean, standoffish at most in his form, but like being nice to people shouldn't be that hard. So in most cases, if you go default, you're going to get Aerith without too much trouble. Tifa doesn't require that much, but once you get Yuffie, you basically have to like do everything. But you have to make a concerned effort to get Yuffie as the date option, because even then, you're not guaranteed it. Pissing Tifa off at the beginning, constantly telling Aerith that you're stupid, you know, giving Yuffie the tranquilizer. Everything has to work properly just to have a chance. Much less even getting Barrett sometimes. I've made a mistake on a couple of questions that I've gotten Barrett by mistake. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. But the rarity of getting Barrett is funny. So you have to proceed in-game knowing which character you want. If you don't personally care, you're going to get Aerith without trying. If you want Tifa, you can do a little bit of finagling, but you're probably not going to need to worry about it. The way it works is Barrett's at 0, Yuffie's at 10, Tifa's at 30, and Aerith is at 50. So you're going to get Aerith if you don't try. And it's a cool idea that I don't think gets explored enough. The hidden affection mechanic. We're so used to social links and confidant links and relationship bonding moments and whatever, because they are big things. Because we're not trying to do romance stories specifically. We're trying to have everybody have their own. If you like this character, go with them, you know. They did it without even like having that as a focal point, because they still had romance in the game, right? But they still gave you the option to mess with it, which was nice. And that brings us to Junon, which is fun-ish, whatever. First one's good. Actually, no, first one's bad. Excuse me. The first one's bad. I don't like it. It's the one where you have to get through the parade. And even before that, you have to do the Priscilla. Well, let's backtrack to the CPR minigame. I was getting ahead of myself. The CPR and Dolphin minigame. The CPR one. Why is Cloud the only person who could do CPR to a 10 or 11-year-old girl? Why can't the old guy do it? Why can Aerith do it? Like, physically, sure. Red 13 obviously can't do it. Why is Cloud the one to do it? Don't ask me. Why is it such an annoying thing that it takes 5 to 10 breaths to do it? Because you're waiting for that thing to fill, and you just hear that. And I can't even do it. I get like 3 breaths, and I'm just like, but you see that. It's an annoyance. They do it for the sake of doing it, much like the cliff in Icicle Inn and Gaia's Cliff. The idea that you're all shivering and cold and you have to stand there for like 10 seconds to, that shit is just there to be there. It's not necessary. It's got a weird context, because yes, you're saving the girl, but it's also like, then she like sort of fawns over you. It's kind of weird, because again, she's like really small. And the old dude, if he said he didn't know CPR, but Cloud said he did, that'd be one thing. Like if Cloud had said, hey, I'm a soldier, I have CPR, let me save her, that would have shown agency. But the game forces you into it. So it takes the agency away from the player and the character both, because you're forced to do the minigame to do the nice thing, yes, but it's just an unnecessary, stupid step that I don't think they're going to want to do. Or if they're going to do it, maybe they'll add stuff like chest compressions, or they'll add like a more finicky breathing mechanic, like a bar that goes, side to side. and you do it that way rather than and then the blow. It's just, it was poorly implemented. It was a stupid idea and didn't make sense. It made sense thematically, which is probably why they did it. But that's what you're getting with this game, is a lot of stupid extra bullshit. Like the Junon minigames. Yay. Oh yeah, and Mr. Dolphin, pro tip, just press the whistle twice. Just don't even move. Just press the whistle twice and you're done. You don't even need to think. But yeah, Junon, cool idea. My hope in the remake is that place is a lot bigger and there's a lot more stuff to do, because it's a military base. It's a cool idea. Do I want it to be as big as Midgard? No. Especially since it looks like remake is going to go all the way to Cosmo Canyon and maybe even Nebel. Specifically Nebel, and maybe even Temple of the Ancients. You need other stuff to do. So Junon, as big as it is, can only have so much. The first minigame sucks because you can't tell if it's going to work with you or not. The March doesn't know if it's going to work with you, so it's kind of like, am I there? No, I'm back. Nope, I'm back. Funny thing was, during the playthrough, I actually got through it by turning on the spam, the fast forward button, and just running through it. I didn't proc it correctly at all. I just ran through it. It was some sort of glitch, and I was like, I don't care. I got it done. I'm happy. I did it. The good minigame is the formation minigame. The Simon Says, the triangle, circle, square, X, that part is neat. One, because you get to see Red 13 staring at you in the backdrop on the ship while he's doing it, which is a cool feat. I only started noticing that a couple of playthroughs ago. But something that I found was unique about this, not just the fact that you need to get 130 to 150 points for the Force Stealer, which is easily doable. A trick that I've seen fairly recently is that if you're using the face buttons, it'll actually show up on the screen slightly higher or lower or to the sides, depending on which face button. So, for instance, if you're doing triangle, it'll show up higher than everything else. If it's on the left, it'll be the square button, so it's kind of veered to the left. So you can kind of like anticipate what it's going to be and press the button, because they're very generous. I will give the game this. As long as you don't stand in the wrong spot or delay too badly, the game is willing to work with you and get you points. And, the special is worth the 30 to 50. And it's very easy to get the points and get it done and do it properly and make sure it works so that you don't have that problem. So I found that the formation minigame is really a unique idea. It's a follow the directions mechanic, but it's done in Cloud is doing subterfuge. But you know that you're getting graded, and you know that a special item that you're not going to be able to get for a couple of dungeons is going to be your reward. So it's like, that's pretty cool. Once I learned of that formatting mechanic of where the face buttons are, it made it even easier. So I breezed through that segment. For as much as I hated the marching minigame, the formation one, the commands was fun, and I hope they recreate that with a lot of respect. And just imagining like Cloud having like 4 or 5 different camera views and being guided into different things. Maybe not switching cameras, because then it would get disorienting, but trying to find a way to interact, getting all of the like new visual splendor of the remake, but you add in some of the formations, but maybe you add in like double commands, maybe you add in different directions, you add a second command, maybe you shoot the gun up in the air, while you're raising it up, something like that. It's just cool things you could add. I don't know if they're going to go point by point. I know with the squat minigame, they changed it ever so slightly, so they might do the same thing there. But we get through Junon, and we get to the other side of the world, and we get to Mount Coral. There's not a lot over there in Costa del Sol and whatnot. It's mostly just cutscene things. The next real minigame tends to be the gold saucer, and that's the fun bit. Because all the gold saucer stuff is fun. I'll save the big ones for later. You'll have some smaller things like climbing the trusses of the train on the mountain and whatever. But gold saucer, if anything else other than wall market is going to realize the full scope of, hey, we've spent 20 years, let's see what we can create with our fancy visuals, the gold saucer is going to be it. The allure, the spectacle, like it's a living casino / amusement park. It is meant to be amazing. I don't know why I said casino. It's just an amusement park. I want it to be a casino so bad for some reason. But that would be pretty funny, a wall market casino. I'm kind of sad they never did that. But just the spectacle, the blues, the yellows, the purples, going into the ghost house and having the dude who's hanging off the fucking rope. Cool little features on every little thing. Trying out the light gun game and sucking terribly at it because I'm not good at light gun games, in the speed area. Having like 4 or 5 different items, like a parasol that you can win. The battle arena, which I'll get to in a minute. Because since we're at the gold saucer, I might as well go through everything. I'll save snowboarding and the submarine for their own segments, but the Wonder Square is crap. The basketball game, I'm terrible at. I don't know the timing. I've gotten it like the most I've ever gotten with the basketball game is 2, and it's expensive. It's like extortion. It's like 200 gil for a fucking basketball. At least with, in actual arcades, you get like 5 or 10 basketballs, right? You get, 3 to 4. It's really quick. The arm wrestling is hard, The first guy is supposed to be easy, and then the second guy is just like, the Wonder Square, the Wonder Catchers, not all that interesting. There's the rock, paper, scissors with the virtual fighter. That's kind of neat. I've gotten all the way to the disco dude. I think the third guy is the hardest, but the idea is rock, paper, scissors, up, mid, low, and for whatever reason, I think the game knows what you're gonna do and always knows how to beat you. I've gotten through the normal dude, I've gotten through the fat guy, but that disco guy, I don't even know if there's a fourth dude, and somebody can tell me if there was, but I got to the disco dude, and he just wrecked my shit. So there's that. Obviously, you're going to have G-Bike, and you're going to have the snowboarding and the submarine games as part of it, but I'll go to those in a minute. But really, Wonder Square is about Mog House. That is something I'm looking very forward to, because you just know in this land of visual, like games like visual novels and stuff like that have come out, that is a pure visual novel or a cutscene waiting to happen, like an interactive cutscene, like QTEs, just blip, blip. But just like full voice acted. I know. I remember Lee just laughing at me because I tried to do like the narrator voice. I forget even what voice I gave him. It was just really stupid. But I was like, I'm gonna go with it. I don't care. But I just laughed because it was such a silly little thing. Because Moogles have been a fixture since 3, and they go full on visual novel. Mog wants to learn how to fly. Mog gets a girl who somehow Mag is just there, right? Somehow he finds the girl and they fall in love at first sight. Well, good for you. I've seen that in real life sometimes, but man, that seems very convenient for the story. But I suppose it's better than having to do like a Yakuza or Street Fighter 6 like world tour kind of thing to find the perfect girl. That would be kind of but still, it's kind of chintzy that Mag is just right off screen. So Mog is inside his house, and then this girl just knocks on the door, and you get the thing right, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, like 10 kids. Like, So the entire point of doing that like 5-minute cutscene is to get like 30 GP, which at that point is probably the best method of getting that. So the guy's just standing there going, almost like watching a streamer doing a let's play. It's like, oh my god, that was so good! Thank you for showing it to me. Here's some money. And so then we get, you know, later on you can do stuff like the battle minigame and the Chocobo racing. So we'll get to those bigger ones in disc 2. But you keep going, you keep going, you keep going. You can do the buggy. You can do... the buggy is interesting because you can go back to Junon and do stuff like the Midgarzolum. You can find the sleeping dude and get the mithril to get the great gospel. You know, little cool stuff like that. They're just hidden everywhere. Stuff is hidden in the world. It's not even like sidequesty bullshit. My main problem is that the Fort Condor stuff becomes egregious as you have the buggy. Because you have to take the buggy all the way back to Costa del Sol, ride the thing to Junon, fly out, use the buggy, go back to Fort Condor like after every mission. So it's like if you wanted to go through the rigmarole of doing Fort Condor every single time, you have to keep using the thing until you get the Tiny Bronco. And even the Tiny Bronco, at least with that, you have a little easier access to Costa del Sol, but you can't take it all the way home with you. Because by the time you get the airship, the final Condor side quest is open. So it's kind of like, it's a lot of extra backtracking. But I think a fast travel system or a... how would I put it? A zoom feature, like in Dragon Quest, where you can zoom to cities you've previously visited, would solve that issue. So it would make me more conducive to actually doing Fort Condor. Wutai is great. Nibel is great. Rocket Town is cool. Cosmo Canyon is great. Just so many cool little sequences of things. But Nibel has the safe. I knew what the combination was because I looked it up. Really, the idea is you're supposed to fall in line with either Gast or Hojo. I think it's Gast, but I could be wrong. Messing with you and saying, I've hidden something in this thing, and, you know, do the whatever. You know, you're supposed to look in these paintings, and you're supposed to look in these side rooms, and I'm like, fuck this, I'll just do it. The problem with the safe is that if you mess up in any direction, you have to restart the entire thing. So you have to input the button, turn it, and put it again, and get all 4. But then you get like the Odin. You get the Odin thing, which is cool. Lost Number I found is way easier than I'd imagined because you can paralyze him, which really screws up a lot of bosses more than you'd think. Much like Poison in Remake. Poison is an underrated mechanic. When it works, it will work. Poison works great in both the games, the original version and Remake. I found that Poison works great, Paralysis works great, and then Lost Number gets fucked. So you get through Nibel, you do all that stuff. Wutai, the pagoda, going through all of the stuff with Yuffie is kind of neat because Corneo's back in there. The biggest drawback of going to Wutai is the fact that you don't have your equipment. You have your equipment, you don't have your materia. You're fighting a dude that cast Arrow 3, and then you deal with Yuffie's freaking pagoda. You can come back later. Like, you can get like the best equipment in the game and just snipe dudes. It's not very sporting, but you can do it. So I've taken steps to just wait to do that, really. But yeah, you can beat with proper planning. You can beat the pagoda and get the Leviathan materia, which, to be fair, is when you're supposed to get it. Let's see, Wutai into the date, then into that, and yeah, okay. And then we get into Icicle Inn. It's bullshit. I hate snowboarding. I hate it like a bunch of balls and a bag of dicks. So the snowboarding thing, cool idea. It's very slippery. It just is. It's like trying to play Mario Kart but worse. Mario Kart, you're allowed a little bit of slip and slide, especially like Super Mario Kart. Maybe not in like 64 and other games with maybe a little bit more traction, but this is like, ugh. This is very slippery. This is not you. I will guarantee you, if you watch the Strife sucks at snowboarding episode, I probably did the absolute worst anybody's ever done at snowboarding. And the worst part is I remember going through that entire thing like 5 or 10 years ago and playing that minigame over and over and over. Like, I actually got like a good hour or 2 hours of experience snowboarding, just trying to buff up my skill a little bit. So you would think that, given that I've played the game as many times as I did, that when push came to shove, I wouldn't like slip and slide all over the place, screwing up so badly that it just became just stupid. But so you do what you do. You're trying to slip slide through. You're trying to avoid the hazards. You're supposed to pick up the balloons. The balloons don't matter in the minigame. They matter in the gold saucer version as to get you points. I don't think I've ever gotten the green one. I wish I understood how and why to get the green one over that arch in the hill, but I might have done it once, but I've forgotten how. I don't remember doing it. So I've even gotten Cloud to do the loop-to-loop roll in the air, but I can't seem to get that stupid, I can't seem to get the green ones. They're meant to be picture perfect, and I'm sure they exist for a reason, but they're just there to taunt me. Speaking of taunting you, the entire Great Glacier itself, I get what they were going for, but having a timed mechanic for you to like falter and fall to the floor when you're trying to do random encounters in the remake, where you're not the remake but the remaster, where you're able to turn off random encounters, so you're focusing more on where you're going and not how you're fighting, how many people. You can mess around with the icicle jumping thing and figuring out how many times you can fuck up and still make it. The biggest problem is trying to find the snow lady, the Yuki Onna, in the cave, and getting Alexander, so touching the hot spring and still making it to the lady. A lot of it depends on where you go. The snowboarding kind of veers you in 4 separate directions. Something that I've always wondered, though, much like the Priscilla minigame with the CPR, is why did Cloud have to do it? Because I know that the snow woman is technically a monster, but you have to think the optics of the situation. And I know you're doing it for a prize, but bear with me. I have this as a thing. You were going to the hot spring. You're going into a cave. If you haven't touched the hot spring, the lady just says, "Leave me alone." That's all she says. She doesn't say nothing else. She just says, "Leave me alone." She's the same fight that you fought 3 or 4 other times, the snow lady, like 4,000 HP, whatever. You do that. You touch the hot spring. She gets pissed because you've invaded her cave. So you're at fault the entire time you're doing this. You are in the cave. You leave the cave. You go to the hot spring. You touch the lady with the hot hand from the hot spring. Then you kick the shit out of her. Like, monster or not, I've always kind of felt that the optics of the situation are kind of weird. That you're taking her stuff just to get the Alexander materia. I don't know if anybody else has ever thought that way. I might be the only person to think, yeah, that's kind of strange and dumb. Now you think about it, you're beating up a lady who's just in a cave somewhere. I don't know. Just thought I'd mention that because I don't know if anybody's ever brought that up. It's kind of... But anyway, so you get the Alexander materia, you do the thing, you climb up Gaia's cliff, and you do the shivering minigame. Not as annoying as some of the other minigames, but it's like, why? Why? Again, I think they overthought the mechanic. And I have complained too. I've said, why don't people wear heavy clothing in those segments or wear less clothing in the hot segments? For reasons. So I give them some credit for coming up with the idea, but just because you have an idea doesn't mean you have to do it. Because the main idea is that if you fall, you have to redo the entire fucking dungeon again if you make a mistake. You're liable not to, but the way that the thermometer works is that it will get you to 38 and then instantly go back to 37, like within seconds. So you have to do it again. You have to press the buttons a little bit more, just to give you a couple more seconds of 38, degrees. And it's kind of... So if your path is wrong, and you're already fighting dudes on your way there. You're fighting Marlboros, you're fighting icicles, you're fighting these dudes that cause, magic breath, which fucking hurts. These dudes that do toxic barf of all things. Just little stupid shit, And it doesn't... When you fail, much like when you fail on land in the Great Glacier, it doesn't feel good. It just... seems unnecessary. Not saying I don't appreciate the effort and execution, it just seems kind of, is that really necessary? But anyway, you get through all that. Next minigame is a slap fight. So you get through all you're gonna get through with the stuff, and you get back to Junon. You're with Tifa, she's climbing down the thing, and then Scarlet runs her down. And I have to admit, Lee doing the Scarlet voice was really good, because he said she doesn't get to be the villain all that often, so it's kind of neat. But anyway, Scarlet and Tifa get into a slap fight, and I've actually lost that fight. You can lose it, and it's a weird timing thing, because even if you hit the buttons properly, you sometimes fuck up, and Tifa won't slap fast enough, because you would think a trained fighter versus a dominatrix woman who doesn't really have any, as far as I know, doesn't do any basic training, because she's never shown to do anything. She's shown to be a domineering bitch. She doesn't strike me as the person who spends her off hours, punching things. But mechanically, slapping somebody is different from punching them. And lest we forget, while I'm thinking about it, the gas chamber. Oh boy. Legs, up and back, head and legs, hit the arms, done. If you fail that, it takes forever to get it. But it's one of those things, once you understand the mechanics of getting the key, it kind of becomes second nature, kind of like the safe. But it's again, just little stupid things that they added for the sake of it. I don't know if they would do a thing like in Metal Gear Solid where you get captured and you actually physically could die from it. That would have been an interesting mechanic, but I can see why they wouldn't have done that, because that would be a bullshit move. And I'm not even saying you can't save or there are no continues like Metal Gear Solid does. It's you're gonna die from this. Yeah, that would be tense. That would suck. But you get that done. High Wind is yours to avail to do what you want. You can do little stuff like playing the piano at Tifa's thing. You can do the Chocobo racing. You can do the forest. There's a lot of stuff at that point, and that's where the side quests go. So we've done the snowboarding. We've done all that. We'll do the submarine now. Simple stuff like getting Sid's code and whatever. He has a bit of a dialogue if you get the code right the first time. I think it's circle XX square or square circle. I think it's square circle XX if I remember. And it's almost like winking to the camera, but he doesn't turn around and face you. It's kind of like, yeah, you must have known that code. That's the only way you would have known. The rotating thing in the with the train in Mount Coral, getting the train to go within 10 minutes. I've found you can beat it in 5 minutes if you're properly trained. You don't get Ultima if you let it blow shit up. I've actually had that happen once where the entire train just bulldozes the town and everything is just bleh. So you don't get the huge materia, you don't get the Ultima, you don't get... I think you could still get Catastrophe, but don't quote me on it. It's been a while since I've done that. But you get into the rocket, you do that thing, and all these little things, all these little side quests and fun things. The Chocobo Breeding is kind of the main quest. And there are two ways about it. You can not race at all and kind of glitch your way to it, or you can race. And I think racing is kind of fun, because all those stats end up mattering to an extent, because you need 3 races: short, long, whatever. I wish it was 2 long races and 3 short ones, but that might be something they would change here and there. The long race is kind of neat, but I am very grateful they did the short race. But it really stands to reason the just sheer amount of bullshit it goes through to catch a chocobo. Lee and I took about 45 minutes to get the chocobo off like on and off camera, and then we finally fucking did it, and it was just really stupid because you have to get a good, a great, a wonderful, good and a great to breed into the water and the river and the mountain. What we found is that the breeding time has nothing to do with races, has nothing to do with time elapse. It has everything to do with the amount of fights you're in. Because we were doing that glitch where you can actually get the chocobos without having to race at all, and it was all a matter of how many fights. I wish I'd known that when I was a kid, because I would spend hours racing and get myself to A. Some chocobos, like the good one, like you could get to B, but as soon as you get to A, you're just like, because you're facing off against the black chocobo. That guy's a cheating, lying, conniving son of a bitch. He's always gonna have better stats than you. It's fucking bullshit. Just saying that. But you could bleat. You could bleat. Yes, you could bleat the black chocobo by basically have his keep wiggling your butt in his face so he can't get past you. That's the only way I can remember getting past him until you get a faster chocobo. The mechanics of it is the mountain chocobo can go right through the short course really well. The long course, you need the river chocobo, but there's more chance for Teo to fuck you and overpass you with the longer course than the short one. But having enough of that trick where you can keep rebalancing your stamina and just keep, as long as he's not on screen, as long as Teo's not on screen by the time you're at the finish line, he's not going to pass you. But there's never a guarantee that he's not going to. So you do that mess. It's really dumb. But you keep working through it. You keep getting the chocobos. As you get progressive chocobos, you unlock more stuff. You unlock the ancient forest, which is it's a cool puzzle mechanic thing of throw these things into frogs and they'll eat the frogs and the frogs will eat the whatevers and the frogs will bounce you up and you bouncing up and down trees. So you can get really good equipment. It's a 2 to 3 screen thing. The main things you get are better weapons for several characters. You get the Typhon materia, which is in the original version of Final Fantasy VI, his name was Chupon. It's just this weird looking thing. I don't know where they redesigned him, but in Final Fantasy 16, Typhon shows up again as this like undead, necrotic, evil, decaying looking dude. So he went from this like wind spewing Porky Pig / monster cloud looking thing to a necrotic, decaying wizard thing. Interesting redesign, if I might say so. I'm wondering if it's the same guy. The name is the same, so I'm concerned. But yeah, you do that. I didn't even talk about the digging. Oh god, the digging game. So we get through the ancient forest, we can do the digging minigame. So, before the end of disc 1, you can do the digging minigame. The idea is that you take 5 workers, you balance off where they're standing. My method is to do 2 guys on top, 3 on bottom, or 3 on top, 2 on bottom. So right on the left and right sides, and 1 in the middle, like right where the the stone skull head is. Then there's one on the side near the ladder. Then there's one near the dude in the hill on the bottom. And the lunar harp is usually on the top. It's very exacting. I will give this game this much. It's like finicky about where you need to be, like to the millimeter, where you're supposed to hit the button to get you to go, and it can mess you up. The amount of times I've gotten nothing in there, even though there's like no other treasures, is kind of frustrating, because you can get anything from the lunar harp, which is what you need to succeed, to a mop for Sid. Yes, a mop as a weapon. You can get, I want to say, I'm trying to think of all the things you can get in there. I've gotten the mop and the lunar harp. That's specifically the things. The key to Sector 5 as well. The key to Sector 5 opens up everything to get you to Tifa's final weapon. And honestly, her final weapon kind of sucks if I'm being honest. Because I think it's tiered to how many times you've hit and miss on her limit break. That's kind of, because some people get like higher HP, more damage, higher SP, more damage, more people you kill, more damage. The more times you miss, the more damage. It's never been my preferred way of calculating damage, so I found her weapons to not always be the best, but you can grab it. But back to the Ancient Forest. You did the Ancient Forest. You're doing the Chocobo racing, so you unlock all that. You can do getting the black Chocobo, getting the gold Chocobo. I find that Mountain Chocobo can get me sometimes to A rank. When we found out that it didn't really matter, and then the ranks are all about getting better items and shit, Wonderful Chocobo can actually get you pretty far despite having no benefits at all. It's just really good and really fast. So you can actually get to A or S with a Wonderful, but Gold Chocobo is broke. Black Chocobo is broken. It's really handy. Getting all the special equipment from getting the Chocobos. Even that stupid HP MP Plus materia. We found out that the HP MP Plus materia, or switching materia, can get me to 777 and help with Emerald and Ruby. So the weapons. Hooray! The weapons. Not as bad as I initially thought. If you do it right. I was just fucking around one day and thinking, hey, maybe I should give Emerald a shot. I'm like level 60 something. I've got, HP Absorb and Knights of the Round. I remember seeing that as the method, because some people use Barrett's Limit Break, the Anger Max or Unger Max thing, and they copy his limit. Sometimes they mime Knights of the Round, and I use HP Absorb. The mechanic I saw was from a streamer known as Redweird. He did, I'm sure a lot of people have used this method before, but his method was HP Absorb on Cloud, Mime, and Knights of the Round. I had an extra Mime because I was leveling up so much. I had that on Tifa, and Barrett was just there for support. And outside of getting wrecked by like one move right at the tail end of it, I killed Emerald in the second time. And then I showed up on camera and did it for realsies the next day. So I was kind of proud that I was able to do that, because I was under the assumption they were harder than that. Or it's just because I wasn't prepared to beat them as quickly as I did in the game. Ruby is a little bit more finicky because it has an Ultima counter, but if you do it properly, you can avoid the mechanics of the Ultima counter with paralysis. I'm shocked as hell that I super boss, and technically the hardest one, because you're usually fighting it solo until you use Phoenix. It does all those stupid status effects. It beats the shit out of you, but it can be paralyzed. You could paralyze it and then cheese it with Knights of the Round. You have to keep casting paralysis bullshit, but you can cheese it because it technically has less HP than Emerald does. So color me surprised that I was able to actually pull that one off. Getting back to other cool stuff, there was the submarine minigame. I've failed that minigame once, and I'm ashamed of myself. There's like no like middle ground. You either get that guy immediately because he's right on screen, but if you miss him at all, it is really hard to track him again. They really need to fix that for the remake, because the tracking on this game is atrocious. I don't know what kind of submarine game they were basing their minigame on, but the tracking and lack thereof of these submarines really makes trying to go up and down and trying to find them in these minefields of trenches, it's frustrating. They give you so much time, so there's no reason you should fuck up. But I've had instances where I wasn't able to find the guy. I lost him once and he's gone, and I couldn't find him again. If you're able to just pile on missiles, you can beat him in 5 seconds. So, God forbid what the other difficulties are if you can beat the guy in 5 seconds. But that's my thought on the submarine minigame. It's these games are kind of poorly designed when you think about it. They're there for distraction. Hooray! Ambulance going across my building. Great. Anyway. So, oh yeah. Final minigame. The battle arena. How do I want to approach this one? Saving the Chocobo racing and the battle arena for the end is really what you want to do, because it costs a lot of money. But it also really helps if you have like ribbons, you have accessories, you have items. Don't neglect having good items or good magic, because the mechanics of the battle arena are such that it can mess you up. You can have the best elemental protection, you can still get screwed over, because any of your materia can get broken at any time. Your speed can get halved. Your time can be you can take damage. You can have no items. So if you're berserked or whatever, yeah, you will avoid dying and whatever. But in the stage of a fight, if you're berserked, you're fucked. So my method is to use stuff like regen so that I don't have to worry about healing too much. I can just heal in the span of a fight. Double cut materia, 4 times cut materia, slash all, cool things to have. Ultima times 4, Knights of the Round for some of the harder ones, because you can't really predict what you're going to face. There are certain enemy groupings after a while, but then every once in a while you're going to have the ghost ship, and his entire thing is to fuck with you like Chupon in Coliseum, where he's supposed to knock you out of the arena and you get nothing, which is a dick move. But you can fight Ochus, you can fight Proudclad, you can fight Vipers from the Gelnica airship. That place hurts. So if you wanna grind out levels, you go there, but it hurts a lot. So be forewarned about that. So you can fight those dudes. You can fight the Raps dude from Whirlwind Maze. You can fight the Snow Woman again. Just cool little intricate things. You fight this like rare encounter, this gigantic silver grayish dude who punches the ground and you take damage. Like he's just stepping on you or punching you. Like I've almost never seen him in the comet and the meteor. But that's where he's supposed to be. You're climbing down the meteor and he's in like a one-time, fight or something, and he shows up a lot in the arena, and he just punches you. He's gigantic. You can fight a sandworm. I give them a lot of credit for the amount of nuance that it takes to get there, but the arbitrary battle points and the absolute bullshit of the slot mechanic, which can really screw you up if you get like all materia broken, or your ribbon is fucked, or your weapon is halved, like your weapon damage. Your entire attack strategy with Cloud in most cases is either enemy skills for heals, like White Wind and Big Guard, and regen for extra heals, or Ultima or high level spells, or more assuredly, Ultima weapons. So if you can't do 2 times damage, or your damage get cut, or your HP goes down, it really slows you down. And really, you're taking a good hour to 2 hours to get Omni Slash and Knights of the Round. So it's a race against time because you can't heal. Because you can't do anything in battle other than that. If you try to save your progress, the game defaults to 0 points. That's a big bullshit move because they don't default your GP in the Chocobo minigame. So you win stuff with the Chocobo minigame, you're free to leave and save. But in the battle arena, you gotta rush your ass all the way every single time to those special equipments and special bonuses. So it's kind of like, it's an unnecessary annoyance that they could have avoided, and I hope they do later. I'm just looking at where we're at, but that should do it. I'm pretty sure that's all the mini games that I can think of. Obviously, big, small, annoying, not so annoying, fun. It was a kind of a trip down memory lane sort of thing. That was what this episode was kind of being, because there's only so much you can do about the sidequesty stuff in the scope of like a main review when you're trying to talk about story and characters and plot and all that. But this was designed to go down memory lane about all of the mini games and side quests. And to be fair, I do think they learned from their mistake, because it's a good idea in theory, bad in execution in most cases. Final Fantasy VII was an exercise in excess. They tried so many things, and a lot of it worked. It's still a really fascinating game, but the more you replay it and the more you see it, or maybe if you've seen it for the first time and thought, what the fuck is that doing there? The less you find it all, the more interesting, because then you start dreading some of the things you're going to do. Are the side quests the hardest things in the world? No. It's just a lot of like kitchen sink things that may or may not work in context, which I hope in the remake they do a good job. They've tried to maintain the essence of the minigames, but change them enough that they fit more. Like adding a rhythm game to the Honeybee Inn, I would have never called that. I was impressed. Adding in the summoners, the summons, fights. You do that shit. You didn't have to do that. It's kind of a cool, neat mechanic, So the remake has its own side questing, so they have their own cool things that they can add to the characters while still holding true to, hey, we had this thing from the original, let's retool it, find out what could or could not have worked, and redo it in a way that may or may not work. So they don't have to get rid of everything. Because for all that I've said, for everything that I think is kind of shit, you can redo it. Or you can find people who don't have as many problems with them as I do. The CPR minigame, the Fort Condor. There are probably people who enjoy those little things. So it's better to have a thing than not have a thing. Unless it's a really, really egregious situation that is mandatory. If it's a mandatory thing, then you're in trouble. That's when it becomes a problem. If it's a mandatory thing blocking your progress, that's when it becomes less of a, hey, this is funny too. Get this fucking over with right now. I just want to get back to the fighting. So it becomes a give and take. I appreciate the effort it took to go into this sort of situation, but I can also understand that you didn't need to do that. So Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX, not so much Final Fantasy X, but they did it in a different way. They scaled back on the amount of shit that you needed to do, and they geared it more towards the 4 to 5 main things that you could do, which made much more sense. But I'll get to those games on a different day. And that will do it for me. And let's see, schedule-wise, what is going on here. Because that was Final Fantasy VII side questy bullshit. I love that term. I don't know why I started doing it. I don't know if I heard it somewhere else or I just made it up. But I just love saying side questy bullshit. But let's see. Next week, in recording of this, we'll have Trigun Stampede. So that was a show that I was not looking forward to. Well, I was looking forward to, then a couple episodes in, not really looking forward to sticking with, and then it turned out to be really good. So hooray for that. August 27th will be the finale of the Phoenix Wright trilogy, Trials and Tribulations. Absolutely the best one for many different reasons. I don't, as much as I like the first and second one, the third one's the best, and I'm not gonna lie. After that, another anime, and I believe I'm going to go with Interviews with Monster Girls. As stupid a name as that sounds, if you've seen it, you'll know that it's actually a really interesting show. And nothing like you'd expect, because you would expect it to be like a harem or some goofy, stupid show. No, it's actually got some unique, cute mechanics and concepts at play and digging into the lore. So it's a lot more subdued than you'd think it would be for a comedy, and I actually like it a lot, so I'll be happy to talk about it. And I might even later on get a chance to rewatch it, but I've watched it like 3 or 4 times. I know what I'm going to talk about. But that'll do it for me. Once again, if you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back next week with more. Citizen Strife, signing off.